Wanna cry? That's the name of the latest big computer virus. It shut down huge portions of Britain's National Health Service, Germany's rail service, and over 200,000 computers around the world. But what is WannaCry, also known as WannaCrypt? And more importantly, why do you need to be very concerned about it? Well, the first reason is that the world is very vulnerable even to simple cyber attacks. That's what this shows us. This was not some big secretive government organization that launched this attack. It wasn't a set of supervillains. WannaCry uses a vulnerability that was well known and well exposed and well publicized. Microsoft released a fix for this back in March, and then a month later a set of hacking tools used by the NSA was published online, and one of those tools basically used the same vulnerability as this WannaCry ransomware virus. So everybody knew about this, yet it was still this big deal. Why? Well, the virus has mostly affected huge organizations that often run custom-built software and hardware like Britain's National Health Service, and upgrading those is not easy. So even though there's a patch out there, it's very hard for them to implement it. Good computer security is hard for these huge, especially government organizations. And so the fact that this virus is basically old news, but can do so well, vividly demonstrates that. Now, the second big reason to be concerned is it demonstrates that even governments are vulnerable. As I mentioned, WannaCry used a vulnerability that leaked out of the NSA from the US government. So this was one of the US government's cyber weapons, and they let it get out there. Microsoft released a statement saying, "The governments of the world should treat this attack as a wake-up call. They need to take a different approach and adhere in cyberspace to the same rules applied to weapons in the physical world." TechCrunch wrote that, put simply, cyber weapons are just that, weapons. And they wrote that what the NSA is doing is the digital equivalent of stockpiling a nuclear arsenal and keeping them in a standard safe. The US government can come up with all of these great ways to hack into other computers, but it couldn't keep its own cyber weapons safe. And this brings me to my last point, and that is that this is going to get much worse. What happens when it's not a hack that's based on a problem that's already fixed? What happens when it's something cutting edge, when it's not, say, just a few shadowy guys behind this, but a government? What we saw over the weekend was just an improvised explosive device compared to the big guns and weapons that are out there. Look how vulnerable the world was to what was really a relatively simple and outdated hack. Experts have been warning for years, a huge number of experts, that the West has major vulnerabilities to cyber warfare. You can find a lot of experts out that have warned about huge vulnerabilities in America's power grid and electricity generating systems, America's banking system, especially America's newest fighter jet, the F-35, even America's nuclear missiles have major vulnerabilities here. So there are foreign governments out there, you can be sure, that can bring the US to its knees. This is something Trumpet Editor-in-Chief Gerald Flurry has been warning about for over 20 years. Unlike these experts, his warning isn't based on an intricate knowledge of infosecurity, but instead there are prophecies for this modern day in your Bible that describe something that looks very like a cyber attack. Ezekiel 7 verse 14, for example, says, "They've blown the trumpet even to make all ready, but none goes to the battle. The alarm is blown, the nation is under attack, but nothing moves." That sounds like an army grounded by a cyber attack. So what we saw at the weekend is just a tiny taste of what is coming.